welcome to Retro Encounter episode 179. This week we're talking about Lufia II, Rise of the Sinistrals. Joining me today are Katherine Kortvely.
Ayo!
And Zach Wilkerson.
Hey there.
And I'm Leona McCallum. And this, I'll be completely honest, is take 2 of this podcast. Last week we recorded the entire thing and I messed it up. The file got corrupted, so we're redoing it. But it's okay, it'll be even better this time, right guys?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's always good.
So some background on Lufia II. It's a SNES RPG, Super Nintendo, and I would say it's a highly acclaimed one. Like, it usually has really good scores, but it's one of the lesser known games, I feel.
I agree, because I think state-wise, at least here in North America, it wasn't as well known. Mm-hmm. But knowing that if you've played it, you will really cherish the simplicity, but also the very compelling story along with it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's often like in the same conversation as like Final Fantasy III or Chrono Trigger, but outside of that, I think it's probably one of the best Super Nintendo games. So yeah.
Yeah, when you get those games out of the way, then you start seeing the Lufia 2 appear on the
right.
lists. Yeah,
right.
It's a hidden, unknown gem amongst gamers.
Mm-hmm. And it's actually your favorite game, Kat? Am I right? It's
100% my favorite RPG of all time. I don't care what kind of modern day stuff we have. Nothing can take me away from Lufia 2. Being one of the first RPGs, let alone games I ever completed as a kid, it doesn't get old. There is so much you can do in the game that you can spend hours on. You can speed run it. There's so much potential that this game can keep me coming back. Mm-hmm. Hence, one of the probably million reasons why it is my favorite RPG of all time.
I actually just watched like a speed run of the game just before we started recording to refresh my memory. It's like, oh, this is great. I should do this more often for the podcast. You know, just watch someone like get the entire game completed in 5 hours. A game that took me 50. You know.
Yeah, how fast were they able to do the part that we did?
The video was 10 hours long, so I would say they got to like the halfway mark in about 4.5 hours.
I think current records are anywhere between about 3 to 5 hours.
That's crazy! Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, how do they do it? I don't know. But more commonly, you'll see the people speedrun the ancient cave.
And that's a fun side game that happens in the game.
It's my gambling in the game.
So, how many times have you beat it, Kat?
Yeah.
The ancient.
I had to have like at least a group of hands to be able to count those fingers. That's more attempts. Completing it is probably maybe about 1 or 2 hands. Attempts is a group of hands.
Oh wow! So it's quite a hard like challenge, the ancient cave.
Yeah, I've never done it. I've played this game a bunch of times and I've never done it.
Yeah, I've never completed it. I've attempted it.
I had a good time here today. Now
you're showing us up, Kat.
No, that's one of the reasons why the game is so good, but we'll cover it later on.
Yes. So what about you, Zach? What's your history with Lufia?
Kind of an old man, but I played Lufia 1 before Lufia 2 came out, and so I was really excited for Lufia 2. I think I got it for Christmas, and then I played the heck out of it, because back then when you got an RPG, you played it a bunch of times because you didn't have a lot of other RPGs to play.
Yeah, you got an RPG and then you ignored your family for the rest of the Christmas day. That's just how it works.
Which is always the right move, yes. It was actually for probably about a couple of years I would have called it my favorite RPG as well until Final Fantasy VII came out. But it's better than Final Fantasy VII, but I was a kid. What can I say?
Cat approves.
I was super excited about it. I thought it was an amazing game when it came out. And I liked Lufia 1 as well, but Lufia 2 is just way better.
Yeah, so Lufia 1 is a little more rough around the edges, obviously, because it came before. But Lufia 2 really is a very streamlined game. It's very good at what it does. And Lufia 2 actually shows the main characters of Lufia... Lufia 1 shows the main characters of Lufia 2 at the very start of that game, and a sort of prophecy that happens in the game, you know, an ancient tale of these heroes who defeated the big bad Sinistrals.
Yeah, I mean, Lufia 1, you actually play, I think it's either the grandson or the great-grandson of Maxim and Salon. And so they're like these characters of legend sort of throughout Lufia 1. And so it was really cool to play Lufia 2. It was sort of like if like Lunar had a prequel with like Dyne and Galleon. Sort of think of it like that. and it was super exciting, especially for me as a kid.
I know a lot of people would love a Lufia 2 sequel with Dyne and Galley.
Well, it also reminds me, too, of, like, how Mother and Earthbound are. It's like Mother was very unknown to the people, but as soon as the sequel from Mother 2 or Earthbound came out, the graphics were updated, the combat was better. It's like you know more about probably the sequels than you even knew about the beginning origins of some games like this.
Yeah, you're quite right. So, talking about actual Lufia 2 itself, I talked how streamlined the game is, and I feel like that really shows in the battle system and how clean and how quick it is compared to even modern day RPGs, which are still very menu based. Lufia 2 takes this approach where commands on your D-pad, kind of like how Persona 5 did it, if we're honest. Like, left is defend, right is attack, and down is item. And it's like very ahead of its time, I'd say, in terms of UI in the battle.
I agree, because then also the options of using your Akira points versus comparing to like what items or what equipments you have will enhance your skills and also better choices when facing a boss or any common enemies. So the Akira points was one of my favorite aspects of the battle system.
Absolutely. Akira points are like a secondary sort of resource that you can accumulate by taking damage, kind of like what limit breaks are in Final Fantasy. You take damage, your bar fills up, and then you can spend those points. But unlike, say, Final Fantasy VII, it's where it was all or nothing. Some Akira points are cheaper, some are more expensive and more powerful, and it's quite a fun system to play around with.
Sorry, I'm just like on in my head, like Gloom Splash and Blaze Attack. It's like, oh, those is good. Those are such good skills.
So it's a nice thing because it gives you like a nice little degree of customization if you come across a really hard boss, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but there's one where if you don't have the fire dagger equipped, it's much more difficult, and so it gives you that nice degree of customization in a game where you don't really have a lot of party choice. And so it's streamlined, but also just a tiny bit of customization, which is cool.
Yeah, because the Akira points are tied to the equipment that you're wearing at the time. So if you're wearing a helmet, that might have an ability attached to it that lets you slow down the enemy's movement so you can take more turns or quicker turns against them. Or what you can wear a piece of armor that has a healing effect attached to it that can let, like, say, Maxim, who isn't like I would say a classical healer, he can heal his party if he needed to in a pinch, and it really lends a lot of diversity to the team and a lot more fun, I think.
Yeah, I mean, some of the Akira points can also give attributes that some characters don't have, such as we'll mention later on here, that some don't use magic at all.
Nope.
So by having certain equipments, they can use and or spells to heal, to cure ailments. It's just really cool of a concept.
Yeah. And another aspect of the battle system that is, I would say, a semi-big part are the capsule monsters that you can get. So capsule monsters are a fifth party member that you do not control, and you find them in, I'd say they're secret parts of the dungeons. You can find these capsule monsters, and they can join your team, kind of like Pokemon or other sort of monster raising games.
They just mainly evolve into something you would never expect. Like except for Fumi, I'm sorry. Fumi Gels is the only one that actually goes into a sequence most of the part until it's masterclass. And then it's like, how did it become a big giant thing of bubbles to a kitsune? How the hell did you do that?
I'm only up to this stage with Fumi where he just becomes more bubbles. So I thought his final form would be just a bubble bath or something like that.
and that's what, like, all the other ones don't make sense either. Like, they just go from what example? Like, you take I'm trying to just look at them again real fast. Like, you have the redfish. The redfish, when he gets his level up, becomes a toady. So how does a fish become a frog? And then it just gets.
Have you heard about this thing called evolution?
You evolve them by jamming swords down their throats.
Yes.
Get them drunk on apple ciders and hope for the best.
Yeah. So how you raise these monsters, as Zach says, is you feed your capsule monster items in your inventory that you don't necessarily need anymore. But if they like them enough, a little bar will increase until it eventually reaches maximum. and then they will evolve to their next more powerful stage. It's not an important part of the game that you need to raise these monsters, but it definitely helps because they can soak up a lot of damage from bosses, and their attacks can just come in good in a pinch because when they decide to use them and not run away from the battle, they can be quite powerful.
No, I was going to say that I wish there was a little more direction in terms of like how you actually make them evolve, because there were times where I'm like, I took like this powerful sword and I shoved it down their throat, and you just said, "Ugh, yuck." I'm like, "What?
I know,
would you like that sword? I just fed you."
Ungrateful little.
It's part of the RNG that they are. From their attacks, they're going to be RNG fed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But also, too, you got to be cautious because, like, I remember times when I've played it where I've had my assortment of items galore, and if I don't watch what I'm doing and get rid of something valuable like a Gade's Blade, dang, I'd start my game over where my last save point is because it's just rather quick. You can just hit and just go for all your items, but you got to be cautious of which ones you actually do sacrifice.
Oh yeah, when you're feeding like a big bunch of items, don't have like your rare miracles or whatever right below them, you know. So another large part of the game are puzzles and dungeons and puzzles. I'd say it's like of an era where you weren't an RPG unless you had really cool puzzles in your dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
And Lufia 2 really stands out as having some very clever puzzles, I think.
Puzzles that we can be stuck on for minutes to hours to days to years. Because when most of us probably played this, we didn't have the internet. There was no walkthrough for this game. It's either your own skills, your friend who's done it. It is a pain in the butt.
Oh, yeah, there's one in the late game that I know took me 3 days the first time I played through this game. I mean, I was 11, but still, without the internet, it was much harder.
It's like, I'm trying to think, is it the firebush one? Is it the pots in the dirt? There's like, I'm trying to figure out which one.
My PTSD isn't so strong that I remember exactly, but I will when we get there.
See, I've actually discovered on this playthrough that I didn't actually finish this game like I thought I did. I actually only reached the halfway point where we're talking up to. So all these puzzles you guys are talking about, I have yet to suffer. I have yet to truly know the meaning of suffering.
Oh, it's going to be a good conversation those days. But I mean, like one of the infamous ones is the gold red tiles, where you have to move the tiles either one or two of the same color with only a certain amount of moves in order for all of them to be the same color. Mm-hmm. First one's easy. There's 4 of them. You move one to the end, bam, you're cleared. The other one's at more of a diagonal plane, so you got to kind of line it up just right. The last one is you have, I think it's 8 tiles, and you have to make this weird combination, and that's a lot of rage quits there, trying to figure that out.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible. I got that far, and oh my god. I got my boyfriend in on it, and he couldn't figure it out. I was like, this is to YouTube we go.
Yeah, full confession, I've probably done that puzzle a dozen times in my life, and I YouTubed it this time. There's no way. I was like, I don't have time for this. It's
Life's too short.
It doesn't get easier.
Puzzle solving in this game is got an extra dimension for the fact that you can use different tools and you acquire different tools, sort of Zelda-like, I guess, and you in the dungeons that help you solve these puzzles. Like the first tool you get is an arrow that you can fire, and the arrow kind of does 2 things. One, you can use it against enemies, and it will stun them. Oh, enemies are also on the field, by the way, so it's like fully non-random battles. You can avoid these battles very easily, I think, compared to other games. Even games like, I think we talked last time on the Lost podcast, that games like Chrono Trigger aren't really random battle free because there are a lot of forced battles in that game. Mm-hmm. But I'd say Lufia 2 does it really well. We're making, if you wanted to, outside of the world map, avoid every battle if you wanted to. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, in like more modern games that try to add the battles on the field, I feel like even they're less avoidable. Mm-hmm. I think about like Dragon Quest VII, which they did that for, and like the battles are totally not avoidable. But here, I think it was outside of Chrono Trigger, I think it's the first one to have done it, and I think it does it actually much better than Chrono Trigger, which might be sacrilege, but I think they do a better job of it here.
100%.
Also with the monsters too, if they're movements, some have unique patterns to where, like the scorpions, if you encounter them, you move one way, they go another direction. So that's kind of neat. But you have also some that have a faster range, such as your ninjas and assassins.
And those horses. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
I can never avoid those horses.
Yes.
Those are the ones that just charge straight for you, right? Or those are the bulls as well. I think they do that.
The buffaloes can do that too.
Yeah.
But it's mainly more, I would say, the ninjas and the assassins who get pretty much 3 movements per your 1. And even stunning them may not help you not get through that counter. So I would say most counters, if not all, are avoidable, but those ones are tricky to get through.
Yeah. So going back to tools, the first one you get is an arrow and be talk that helps you a lot if you want to avoid battles, I think. But it also lets you, say, push levers that are far away and you can't reach them, so it'll trigger a change in the dungeon. And it comes up a lot. The arrow comes up a lot in helping you solve puzzles, but there's also the bomb, which I think is involved in a lot of the more frustrating puzzles.
Oh yes, those 2 arrows where you have to make all the tiles the same color. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yep. Oh, I know that castle.
And also you can use the bomb to like discover hidden debris. So like I remember at one point I was stuck in a dungeon and I realized, oh, there's a big pile of skeleton bones here. I guess I'll try using the bomb to blow them up. And then what do you know? There's a switch underneath the skeleton bones. And also you can use them against like broken pillars, and it'll make, this is kind of cool, when you use them on pillars, you can break the pillars and like a whole floor of what was above will fall down.
I know the scene you're talking about. I know the exact one.
That was a very cool use of the bomb, I think.
Yeah, one of the other skills that we do get as well is resets, which I find to be a huge benefit for a lot of first timers who've ever played the game.
Yes, very necessary.
Mainly resets property lets you reset the current dungeon floor you're on back to how it was. So say you're doing one of the frustrating puzzles and you messed up entirely. Rather than having to leave the whole castle building wherever you're at, that might be more common in some RPGs. But Lufia 2 gains you access to reset, where it just resets that floor you're on and everything's back to the way when you first entered. So that's a nice, huge benefit.
And I got a lot of use in it on those puzzles where you have to turn them all a certain colour. Like, well, I just messed that up. Or I picked up the wrong block, immediately reset. You know, it saves you so much time. The game would be quite frustrating without the reset spell.
Agree.
Yes. What are the other tools we got after that? Do you get the chain after that? After the bomb?
I always call it hook shot.
Hook shot, yeah. No, I think that's the official name. I just call it the chain.
Okay, got it. Yeah, the hook shot is where we go into the one castle or the one tower where we fight Gades for the first time. I believe that's where we get it.
Mm-hmm. And we use that to pull ourselves to places that usually over a gap. You'll fire the hook shot, grab a pillar, pull yourself along, and get to an area you couldn't reach before.
Sort of like that's actually one item that you can use to go back to old dungeons and go find some other items that you missed. Like, how do I get that? Yeah. So I like the sort of like Metroidvania element of the hook shot.
I know for a fact, thinking back to my memory, I saw a chest with a little pillar next to it over some water in an earlier dungeon, and I know I'm going to have to go back there. But it's okay because you get the warp spell, so you can kind of go wherever you want in the world very easily.
And then the hook shot has the same properties of an arrow. You can use it to stun an enemy as well.
Yes. And you also have a sword. I forgot to mention that. It's also one of your basic tools.
Your bush cutter.
Yes. I will say that I have a compulsion to trim every bush in this game. Not a bush goes untrimmed, unpruned.
Except the bushes that do respawn.
Oh yeah, those make me sad. I always want a clean, tidy dungeon, and you're making it very hard. And I think the respawning bushes were one of the more tricky puzzles I felt. To get a certain chest, or I don't know if it was even to progress the dungeon entirely.
I think it was for one chest. Yeah.
Was it one chest? Yeah. So like you can cut a bush, but as soon as you move, or within 2 steps, that bush is back, and the chest is covered in these bushes. And you're like, how am I supposed to get there?
Yeah, there's at least 2 puzzles I know involve the regrowing bushes.
Yeah, so you have to use a mixture of using your sword to cut them and also bombs to time explosions to get rid of them as well. I think that was how we solved it.
Yeah, and the way you play, where you have to actually place the bomb is not what you would expect,
Yes.
or I'm just bad at geometry, one or the other, probably both. But yeah, so that was a tricky puzzle, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And did we get any other tools after the hook shot?
The fire arrow. I think.
Fire arrow, yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we were going to go that far since we're only covering a certain portion, but yes, the fire arrow.
I think we get it before
we definitely got the fire
halfway
arrow.
point. Yeah.
Okay, I thought we'd get it within the second part, but cool fire arrow, yes.
So the amazing thing about the fire arrow is that it is an arrow and it is on fire.
Always.
Would you agree about the fire arrow being an arrow on fire?
I mean, it also serves a purpose of, rather than using your sword to get rid of bushes, you can just mainly clear a whole row with one fire arrow.
Yes, it's also a weed whacker.
Much more efficient.
A ranged weed whacker.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my god, could you imagine? Some people throwing their weed whackers at the wall.
That's what I do every time I use a weed whacker. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're never mowing my lawn.
I'm scared of weed whackers. I'm afraid I'm going to get hit by that little plastic rope thing that goes on, and I'm so scared.
I know. It's going to cut your ankle.
I know!
So, is there any other... Before we jump into the real meat of the game, which is the characters and the plot, is there anything about the dungeons or the battle system you guys want to talk about?
We forgot one of the items!
What? We forgot an item?
The hammer!
That's too late. We don't have the hammer yet.
That's the one we don't have yet.
See, okay, it was that one. Oh. Darn.
Rein in your horses.
And you can anticipate on the next part, there's a hammer involved.
Oh my god, join us next time to talk about a hammer, guys.
I mean, the only thing I'll say is that I think that the thing that makes this game work so well, because we'll get to the plot in a moment here, but like it's a lot of a dungeon time in this game, like more than normal.
Oh, yeah.
But because the battle system moves so quickly, and because the puzzles are so varied, even though like you're in dungeons and places that feel somewhat familiar and similar, it gives it a nice feel of variety that I don't think other games had. And I actually think that's the thing that makes this game work so well, is just sort of like that variety and that quickness and how the plot moves. I mean, I was playing it, like after 2 hours, I've like done like 6 dungeons. What? And so I think that it respects your time, but it also gives you a nice variety of things to do.
I agree with that a lot, because like when I think back to this game from my childhood and when I played it, and then I played it for this podcast, I was like, I cannot believe I'm up to the catfish already, and it's only been like 5 minutes. I remember the catfish being like a mid-game boss for me. It took me forever as a child, but no, it's like one of the first bosses you ever fight. So it's like it really does move along very quickly. So the general plot of the game is we are following our hero Maxim, who is a slick-haired ginger monster hunter. Do you know? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say that Maxim, I bet, is one of those people who deny being ginger and call themselves like Strawberry Blonde or something like that.
I see it more as a crimson, though. I mean, that's a very vibrant red.
It's not a red that exists in real life. We'll just say that. But
yeah, I think you'd say crimson for sure.
Yeah, crimson-haired hero. He lives in a small town of El Cid, and he is, I think his job is a monster hunter. He goes out, he takes care of the monsters around town, makes everything safe, brings them back, sells the corpses, or the pelts or the furs or whatever it is, and then that's his living, or up until the very start of the game, where it's been told to us that monsters are increasing. You sell your monsters to Tia, who is another party member that we have. Oh my god, Kat, please rein in your hatred for Tia.
I'm with Kat.
Kat, she's not that bad. Okay.
You're right. She's not that bad. She doesn't have a personality.
Oh, way harsh, Ty.
Her only purpose is to heal and use magic. That's about it. Next character.
She also has the fire spell. It comes in handy.
But Maximum can learn certain spells too.
Yeah, he's a bit of an
certain.
He's our all-rounder character. Well, Tia is more focused on the magic side of it, but not super focused into it to the point where Ceylan is, say, for instance. But Tia, you could describe her as a childhood sweetheart of Maxim.
I'm going to say it again from last time too. She is a thirsty woman in this game for Maxim. I'm 100% thirsty for him.
She makes it clear. Like, oh my god, does she make it clear? And Maxim is either oblivious or pretending not to see it.
It's literally the only thing she ever talks about. Oh, Maxim, why won't you love me? Oh, Maxim, oh, Maxim. She doesn't talk about anything else.
Stalker alert. Wee-oo.
Maxim's like, you weren't in the foreshadowing in the first game. Sorry, Tia, we can't be together.
Right.
But I said, overall, Tia is... Oh gosh, I would probably say at my bottom tier of any of the characters in this game. No offense, she just doesn't have the same story development as other characters do in the game. She has maybe one pivotal point towards the end, but other than that...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, she's outside of her sort of being an accessory in this game. I mean, I think that especially if you've played Lufia 1, you know at the beginning of the game that Maxim's not going to end up with her. So I think she just mostly functions as a counterpoint to Salon,
yes.
And basically it. She doesn't serve any other function. So as you're like playing the game, you're like, well, when's Salon going to show up? I mean, get rid of this Tia girl.
TikTok.
Yeah.
She serves as a little meta trick by the developers to make you think, but he doesn't go out with Tia, he goes out with Solan. And makes you question up until, like, did they, as you said in the Lost podcast, did they change her name? Or is this a localization thing? But no, it's just you haven't met her yet. Maxim, for the first couple of dungeons, is all by himself, but after the Earthquakes dungeon, where you go to a town and it's being ravaged by earthquakes,
his stalker shows up.
Oh my god. Yes. You run and you defeat the catfish solo. Immediately after that, you find Tia being accosted by some skeletons or something like that.
A skeleton and a goblin.
Yeah. And from that point on, she joins you in your journey.
She forces herself on the party. Maximum can say no in his own mind, but she forces herself to go.
But thou must.
I mean, I have to at least give Max some props. It's like, it's going to be big and scary out there and all these bigger creatures. She's like, I don't care. I'm going to be with you. Let's just go.
I have a frying pan. I'm good to go.
Would have been perfect if she actually used that as her weapon. Very Chrono Cross.
Yes. Hey, if Rapunzel from Tangled can use one too, then any girl can use a frying pan in battle.
Frying pans are just one of those staple RPG weapons, swords, axes, frying pans. It's the Holy Trinity. So if we jump to the next character, you meet him a bit later, and that's Guy, who is our first instance of a character who cannot use any magic whatsoever.
The Guy is our tank. He is like an essential. I love Guy on my party. 100% I love having Guy.
Mm-hmm. Guy's a lot of fun. And you rely on your Akira points a lot with him to use your spells and use stuff like that. So he has no MP or magic whatsoever. And in battle, as you said, he's a tank. He's just very straightforward. I'm going to hit you really hard, and I'm going to take a lot of damage for the team. You put him on the front row, you're good to go. If you know that rows exist, Kat.
Yeah. Just to get everyone caught up, I've played this game dozens of times before, but until I started to stream it, that's when I was more educated. It's like, you should move this character up front, and it's like, you can do that? I just left them wherever they were every time I played. I just let them be.
And it's so bad because it always puts Tia in the front. It always puts her in the front.
Like, was Tia just always dead in your party?
Yeah.
Well, whenever was needed, yes, she was always up front.
Why do I get the feeling that if Tia died in battle, Kat would have just left her dead. Like,
Right move. That's the right move.
Depending on where we are in the game. I mean, if I have at least Selene on my party, then yeah, she can just chill and take a nap.
So Guy has two characters that are related to him. So it has his sister Hilda, who runs an inn, and he has his, I guess not related to him, that'd be awkward, his fiancée Jessie. I mean, it's a small town, you know.
Today in RPGs.
But at least the relationship that Guy has between both his sister and his girlfriend fiance are to me very real.
Oh yeah,
he cares. He cares for his sister just like any big brother should, or little brother. I don't even know if they ever tell you if he is the older or she is younger. I don't know if that is ever mentioned.
He feels like a younger brother to me.
Okay, but still, he has
just
that brother instinct to want to protect his sister, but then also to the deeper level from the few times where Guy chats with Jesse, you can feel the relationship be real. Like they develop from the girlfriend to the fiance, like they have in their times together. You don't see it, but you see how it develops along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like the way that Jesse sort of gives him a hard time, basically constantly. And so you get that sort of give and take in that relationship that I think ends up sort of being a thing that you see in Maxim and Salon's relationship too. So I think it's cool. It's fun, and it's not just like, oh, please love me.
Jess, you get the impression that Jessie's a strong woman. She's totally sure of herself. She's not like, oh, I will wait until my beloved comes back to town, blah, blah, blah. She seems like her own character, and she's like, you need to do something. I'm not going to be insecure about it. You go save the world or whatever, you know? But after Guy, the next party member, and probably one of the second most important after Maxim, is Salon.
She's girl. She top girl. She top bae at anything in this game. She is top girl. Sorry, Tia, down there. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, she's like Tia, but like better in every way. She does more damage. She has more of a personality.
You know, the game makes that very clear, doesn't it? Do you not feel like the game's like, oh, she's Tia, but better?
Right. Well, I mean, she's like a person who like does things.
The game too develops her very well. Like at first, when you encounter her, she's this big general and commander of this village of where she's from, and she doesn't want anything to do with others, but is forced upon them. But as she journeys with the party, she actually finds more of her purpose, her love that gets developed for Maximum. It's I think she has the best character development. I really do.
And I think that the way that they develop the relationship between Maxim and Salon, when they really didn't have to develop it as well as they did, given it was a 96 RPG, they do a wonderful job of sort of making, showing you how those two sort of fit together, which makes the ending of the game much more powerful, I think, and also sort of some midpoint moments as well, like when they get married.
Yay! Oh, the marriage between Maxim and Salon is so unique, I think, in your RPGs. So unique. Even till this day, you never see a gap where a year is taken or so where they get married, they settle down, they have a life.
Yeah, a year passes in the game, but for you, it's about 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
But it's like a beautiful little montage of like moments where they, sort of show the personalities and show them settling in. Again, I don't remember any game before that doing it that effectively.
No, it's very unique and very, very well done. Very well done. And they have a child, and they have to have a child because in the first game you are the descendant of Maxim and Selene, so you know for a fact they have a kid. But they actually have a child mid-game. They are parents by mid-game.
They're not very good at naming their kid. Jaros? What kind of name is that?
They pulled it out of a hat. They asked all the villagers, give us your name ideas, and let's figure out the winner. Here it is!
Yes. Immediately the baby is kidnapped. Immediately it's born, and then it is kidnapped. And that's the story of that baby, and then you leave it.
Yep, and then it just goes away with it's with Selene's mom till further notice.
Well, her aunt, because her mum and dad are dead, yeah. It adds an extra... There's a whole, tragic undertone to Maxim and Selene's, relationship, because you know how it ends.
Right.
But that's still a long time coming. We got more things.
But it's also kind of like, when you think of Solanne's history, her own parents died as well, and then she's going to, it's going to be the same for her kid. It's quite tragic.
I've never thought about that. Making me sad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, by also describing that just shows how Solanne had that toughness in her because she didn't have her parents around. So that's why she became so strong and hard on herself. But by being around the party maximum, she's eventually been able to soften to become the lovable female character she is in the game.
Absolutely. Very well-rounded character, and soft and hard, and just overall just a very positive representation of a woman in a JRPG, especially in these early days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, we have the gloriously dim-witted,
the best character.
Yes,
Deckard,
or as I will say, Deckard.
Tomato, yeah. Well,
he's awesome either way.
He is awesome. However you say his name, he is lovable, he is strong, and just overall a pleasure to watch. When we first meet Deckard, he's in a castle, he's like Solanne, he's like a general or something, like a captain, I want to say, and monsters are attacking the castle, and he takes care of them all, and in a very flashy way.
Sorry, there's something later on to discuss, but during that cutscene where you first meet the car, and he's helping defeat those monsters, but the one that survives is a red jelly. And he gets the prince to defeat. There was at least a nice hodgepodge of tougher enemies, and yet a red jelly survived.
Maybe he did it on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, these jellies are tougher than you think.
Oh, but the cores, on the other hand, love the cores.
The band?
No.
I don't think because I had to play through this twice because we talked about this in the last podcast. I lost my save data. I don't think I ran into any cores on my first playthrough of this first half.
Cores are very uncommon. You have it's a random enemy, but they're very beneficial. You have your red, green, blue, and no cores. You want to find them and try to kill them. Their agility is very fast, though, so you got to be able to kill, even though they have very low defense. They have very high defense, so your attacks you have to be strong with, because if you can kill 1, 2, or all of them, your experience goes off the charts.
Yes.
So think metal slimes from Dragon Quest.
Yes, I ran into a couple of them. I think I actually ran into like 3 in a row at one point.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, but a lot of them got away, so I was sad about that.
Yeah, they will flee quickly if they can. If not, some will do like their spark spell or whatever they have available, but they are a great experience in the game.
Yes. So back to Deckard. Deckard breaks my heart. I love him so much, but he dies.
I didn't see those air quotes. Hold on, I gotta find those air quotes.
Oh my god, is it air quotes? Is he not dead?
We can't talk about it yet, can we?
No. Or is it a mystery? Are we playing with Star?
God, my heart. Don't play with my heart.
I mean,
he's the best character in battle and out of battle. They can't kill him.
I think one thing that I can easily describe the car as, he's the lovable jock.
Absolutely.
He's all about himself and his sword. That's all he cares about, and a few ladies on the side. But other than that, he is a great, my personal favorite character. I cannot top anyone. I mean, the car has a dang-gum sword named after him.
Yes.
Come on!
You find a sword in a dungeon called the Deckard sword. They must have known when they made it he was coming.
Or to remember him by.
Yeah, then he dies 5 minutes later, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, it was a bad omen. But he's not just, he's not just an airhead. He's not just the idiot or the joke of the party. I think there's a couple of moments where you get some pathos from him, where he seems like a lonely guy. He seems like he's not got anyone in his life other than these fleeting relationships with women he meets in bars or stuff like that. You have a sort of moment with him, I think, at the top of one of the towers where all the girls' boyfriends come and get them after Deckard saved them. and he's just left with no one.
Yeah, and he has like sort of a wonderful character moment with Tia too. Like, and I can't believe I'm saying wonderful character moment and Tia in the same sentence, but a really good character moment for him when she's leaving town too. When she leaves the party toward the end of this part of our playthrough. So yeah, he's a great character.
Yes.
I was remembering during when Star was just talking about how he's there to save all those girls, and then there's that one little girl, that one 11-year-old girl who was like, "I'll marry you," and then her same 11-year-old boyfriend comes like, "Oh no, I forgot, I was already engaged." Bye.
Yes. Oh, that was so funny.
But when you play the game, you will learn why Dakar is a very favorite character amongst us fans. Mm-hmm. He is very he's top notch. He's my favorite male in the game.
Yes, and just like Guy, he also can't use magic, so he's like a sort of other guy that you have. He's better. Yeah, well, he's like very slow but stronger.
Yeah,
I think that's his deal.
It's also the hair. Come on, that hair is amazing.
Oh, he has Yu-Gi-Oh hair.
Yeah, it defies physics in the best kind of way.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you look at him compared to the DS game, I
didn't think we were talking about that game.
Any podcast with Lufia II, there will at least be a mention of that. If we don't mention it afterwards.
Yes, if we don't mention it, we're going to get emails saying, you didn't talk about the DS remake, though. So, okay, here's us talking about the DS remake.
Next time on Retro Encounter, we will have...
We will, just for clarification, we will not have the DS remake.
No.
I've not played the DS remake. I've seen YouTube clips of it, but it just doesn't seem like it's true to the spirit of the game.
If I could find some way to stream it, I would let you enjoy how bad it is.
Okay, so make sure to have an eye out for the RPG Fan Twitch channel when Kat might stream the DS version of Lufia 2.
I have to figure out how to do that because the cable port's expensive, and plus you also have to mod your DS.
Yeah, that's true. So those are up until the halfway point. Those are our main party characters, but there's also a tertiary character that you see quite often in the game, and that's Iris. And Iris is a woman who really starts off your journey way back at the very start when you go into a cave and to defeat some monsters and get a key because they stole the key. Whatever, you defeat the lizard man, and Iris appears and tells you of a destiny that you have. Maxim has a destiny, and Maxim is all about having a destiny. I think he's very a destiny. You say, I am going off on a journey. Goodbye.
I would do the same if some random male or female approached me saying I have a destiny that I need to do. Be like, bye, full-time job. I got my destiny to go after.
Yeah.
These jellies can hunt themselves. Iris is a very enigmatic character. She's very mysterious. You don't know a lot about her in the first half of the game. I know next to nothing about her because I have not played the second half of the game, and I can only speculate as to what her deal is. She mostly appears to save your ass.
Yep.
If a building is falling down and you're in it, or if a boss is about to kill you, she'll teleport in and then teleport you out. Very Deus Ex Machina.
But once you do play the game more, you find out her true intentions. So it does develop to who she really is. I think she's all nice and good now, but who knows what the future holds.
Okay, I'm just guessing. Is she Solan's mum? Because she have like
the
same hair color.
I will say her hair color does change with some frequency.
Oh,
or if you look in a mirror a certain way.
Oh, what?
Yeah. You'll see. You'll find out.
Leona is nodding knowingly. Quite. What? But now let's talk about our bad guys, the Sinistrals, who at this point we've only seen one Sinistral. And true.
And lackeys.
And lackeys.
And lackeys.
Yeah, and lackeys. We can't forget the lackeys. But the big Sinistral we've seen is either Gades or Gades, however you want to pronounce it. I say Gades.
I also say Gades.
You guys and your pronunciations. But that's okay. I mean, there's more than one way to say something.
Exactly.
Most of the time.
And from what the Sinistral Gades just seems very destructive.
Yep.
He comes to cities and he destroys them, and he likes destroying things.
I was going to compare more of their sprites. When you actually play the game and see these Sinistral sprites, and then you go into battle, you honestly question yourself, like, how does this become that?
Yes, my favorite thing about the sprites is when I don't think they animated like a back spike for Gades. So at one point he's walking backwards and it's very awkward. You're like backing him into a corner totally, but like it just seems like a very awkward sprite movement with this giant sprite just like fumbling around backwards.
I mean, when I looked at Gades' sprite, I always thought it was like some weird skull with red flowing hair and big armor. But then when you actually see him in person, it's like, oh, he is actually human.
Yeah, he's humanoid. Yeah, it's huge though.
A very, very large human. Yes.
Now, when we're talking about Gades, I might as well ask both Star and Zach, did any of you ever try to defeat him on the first encounter?
Oh, I tried. I failed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've never done it. I know you get like a nice reward from it, but that wasn't happening for me.
Usually, on average, from what I've seen other players do it, I haven't done it personally myself as well, but if you're able to kill Gades, you actually get the Gades Blade. And the Gades Blade's Akira points is the, I think it's Octoslash, which attacks an enemy 8 times. It is random if there's a large thing of enemies on there. If there's like 4, it'll randomly attack one of the 4. But that's why a lot of people, if they can do the punishment of about 10 plus minutes of defeating Gades, you get the Gades Blade.
That sounds very strong.
I mean, do you have to be at like a certain level? I mean, it seems like impossible. He wiped me like on the first turn, so I don't know how to possibly beat him.
I've seen people do it probably about between the levels of 14 to 18. The biggest thing is, I believe, the speedy ring. You mainly need Selene to attack first, so she can heal the party before Gades can. If you can get her agility higher than Gades, you have potential.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, if she can just constantly keep everyone topped up and he keeps putting them low.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, I mean, imagine like lowering his stats helps a lot. Like taking his strength and speed down from like Akira points would be helpful.
It's a true achievement. I will admit, anyone that does go that length to defeat Gades in the first round, I do applaud you on that, because that is not an easy feat.
So, are you applauding yourself right now?
No, like I said, I have not personally done it because I just want to go to the story. I don't want to spend my time. I'd rather take my chances getting the Gades Blades for the Ancient Cave than just doing it against Gades.
I'd rather keep my sanity, I think.
Right.
But Gades isn't, as you said, isn't the most interesting. He seems very one-dimensional from what we see. But his lackeys, or 2 of his lackeys, seem to have some personality about them. Camus and Adura. Adura, I will never forgive.
He stole my baby!
He took my boy! There's a very strong rivalry between Deckard and Adura from the time that you know them, and it culminates in the death of Deckard and Adura. Adura just don't die. He comes back as a ghost and kills Deckard. It's very unfair.
Question mark?
Oh my god, I'm so interested.
Sorry.
You're killing me, Kat. You're killing me.
I'm sorry.
You're killing me.
Asterix, do you want instead?
Is there any other characters that we've not discussed that we want to talk about?
I mean, we just mentioned Camus for a second, but all he is just you gotta defeat him and defeat him and his lackeys. Even though Buster Blaster is a pain in my butt, I will admit I hate that Buster Blaster, except it does feel my Akira point gauge very well, so props on that.
Yes, it's very good for filling up the healing bar.
Well, I'll go ahead and discuss one of everybody's favorite early enemies or bosses is the Tarantula. We all love and adore him.
Mr. Spider Bro.
Yes, our Spider Bro, sure. But I think the Tarantula is a very good point in the game, as early as it is, to tell you how strong you really are. Yes. It's a big test.
Yes. You, as Zach said, you should get the fire dagger. You have to climb a whole tower again to get the fire dagger, but it is worth it. because
Yeah.
it deals the Akira points does 3 times fire damage, which just so happens to be what the tarantula is weak against. And
Yes.
it teaches you, as Kat was saying, teaches you that this game isn't messing around sometimes, you know?
And I mean, some people would never have wanted to go back in that tower. It's like, do I really want whatever these 3 chests are? Is it really worth my time?
I don't trust
saves you
I don't
time
trust a
overall.
person who doesn't want to go back for those 3 chests that seem just
Yeah.
crying out. That's not a person I want to know.
You probably shouldn't play RPGs if you
No.
don't want to.
Go play Call of Duty or something. It's not
Yeah.
the game for
But
you.
it's going to ruin my speed run if I go back.
But it'll hurt your soul more.
Yes. But yeah, the tarantula is probably one of my favorite early enemy bosses, is because, like I said, it tells you how strong you really are, how well you know the enemy's weakness, plus being able to endure a good battle.
Mm-hmm. So other notable bosses that I can think of are the clowns. There's 2 clowns that you fight. And...
Danielle and I think it's Pierce. Yeah,
Right.
Pierce.
Okay. And they all stuck out to me because I remember being like, how am I supposed to beat them? Because if you kill the one on the left, it respawns. If you kill the one on the right, it respawns. But then eventually you have a little cutscene outside saying, why don't we both try and take care of them together? And you split your party in half.
But
And
when
of
you
course, it's Salon who comes up with the plan because she
Yeah.
is amazing.
She's a genius.
Well, it's also, too, when you do split up, you gotta remember to switch your items and or have the people with the right spells. It
Uh-huh.
makes it so much quicker if you do.
Yeah,
You
so
have to make sure
hopefully,
you have the cold rapier and the fire dagger on the right person.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
so hopefully on your first battle with the clowns, you realize what their weaknesses were and you're equipped accordingly.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, they do have the decent spells of Fireball and also Blizzard. So, I mean, they can come back at you pretty decently. So, unless you're prepared, it's a good battle as well.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? Is there any bosses you can think of?
The tarantula, really.
Just the
We already talked
tarantula.
about it.
Yeah,
Big
see,
book.
Spider Bro gets some love.
Yeah, the first time I fought the tarantula, I didn't have the fire dagger, and I got party wiped like 3 times. And I'm like, I know I'm good at RPGs. Why can't I win this fight? And then I remember like Kat was like, hey, there's like this fire dagger that you should probably go get. I'm like, oh, okay.
I still
Then I
can't
went and got
believe that. Oh my goodness!
And then
So
like
many years
first battle
later,
afterwards.
it's like I'll always go back now.
Yep,
Uh,
I just forgot.
So, after defeating Gades and the death of Dekar and the marriage of Solan and Maxim, that really takes up the whole end of the middle of the game. And that's really where we're up to at this moment.
Yes.
So, where I ended it, we've just lost Dekar, and we're kind of mourning, but we're ready to move on with new found vim and vigor to defeat the Sinistrals, who are this impending threat upon the world. So, I have a final question for you guys, and I want to know from the first half of the game, what has been your favourite moment? Who wants to start with their favourite moment from the first half of the game? I can start if you guys want.
For me, it's the marriage of Maxim and Salon.
Yes.
No question. I think it's really sweet. I love the way they honor the characters, but it also like sort of shows their personality and their loving relationship in that circumstance. I mean, outside of like Cecil and Rosa in Final Fantasy IV, I can't think of another relationship in an RPG at that time which really got developed that well. And the development gets even better in the second half, but I think that the sweetness of that moment is really important. It's the one moment that I remembered. I hadn't played it for like 20 years before replaying it now, but I remembered that moment because I thought it was really sweet.
It's just something very cool about having a husband and wife in the party together,
Yeah.
kicking ass. Like,
Adults.
maybe it's the
Adults
older
who,
I
like,
get.
sort of
but-
act like adults, which is still too rare in RPGs.
Yeah, it's really rare. And it's just like,
Yeah, it is.
maybe it's the older I get. But I'm just like, bring dad in, bring mum in, get a whole family party going in here,
Right.
Why did they have to die? Get everybody in the final party, I'd love to see an RPG where it's it's a whole family,
You should play Dragon Quest V if you haven't.
Okay, well, I've tried to turn my hand at Dragon Quest a few times, and I've just come to accept that it's not for me.
V is so good. If you want a family, you get the whole family in Dragon Quest
Solosi's
V.
going to delete this podcast now because I said
Yeah.
that. No, we can't hear this.
You had to
Leona.
say something. Just had to
Solosi
say
knows what's up.
Time out. This is Solosi. Leona, you should play Dragon Quest V. I won't delete the podcast. This time. time in.
What about you, Kat? What's your favourite moment from the first half of the game?
We've already covered a lot of moments,
We
and
did.
I'm honestly going to divert myself of the reason why I keep on coming back to the game.
Yes.
It's the ancient cave, people.
Okay, let's go.
100%.
And that is in the first half if you want it to
It
be,
is.
right?
That's why we're discussing it right now.
Kat's got the technicalities.
I gotta do it. So pretty much the ancient cave within itself is 100 floors of random RNG generated chests to monsters. But the overall purpose of you going through this dungeon is to get to the 100th floor. And would you believe what the enemy is at the bottom? What do you think it is? What could it be?
Jelly.
The dragon, right?
Well, no, Star was right. It's actually
It's a jelly?
giant
Oh my
red
God.
jelly.
Oh my
It
God.
is a giant red jelly.
Is that the jelly that lived against Decker?
It could be seeking vengeance.
Yes.
But the property that makes the ancient cave fun, a few of it. There are blue chests. Blue chests are usually only for main game for keys and key items. But the blue chests in the ancient cave are rare items you'll never get in other possibilities. So from that, you can get some of the more powerful weapons, such as I mentioned earlier, the Gaze Blade, Spark Staff, the Fry Sword, the Blaze Sword. There's a whole plethora of great blue chest potentials. Plus, you also get rare accessory drops, such as the Gold Eye, Gorgon Eye, Water Jewel, things along those lines that give you great Akira skills to use against the enemies. But mainly the gauntlet of going down 100 floors is the gambling of the game for me. It is what has always kept me coming back, is to see how far I can get, how much I really actually hate the game, but I will never admit it because I actually love the game. How much of the times I've died during the assassins when they have those one-hit kills and wipe out my party, and I have no miracles. Because when you also enter the cave, you don't go in with any of your weapons, any of your stuff, unless you have gone through the cave before and kept your blue chest items. In the first 20 floors, you will keep on grinding until after the 20th floor into the 21st, you will look for Providence. Providence is your automatic escape no matter where you are in the cave. So from that, you can go as far as you want until you use Providence or until you die. So say you got something great from a blue chest or chest along the way, but you realize, oh, I'm under level because you also gain your spells from these chests. So you could be on the second floor and already learn champion. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have the best healing spell besides Valor to resurrect my party members.
Yeah.
But it's spells, it's random jewels and accessories, helmets, swords, anything can be found in these chests throughout the game inside the ancient cave. So there's your gambling and your addiction of wanting to go deeper and want to get through these 100 floors. But it's also precautioning your levels, where you're currently at, what kind of monsters are going to be approaching, because some monsters are only will appear in the ancient cave and not anywhere else in the game. So knowing that, it wants you to keep on going down deeper and eventually getting to the giant red jelly to defeat.
The king
So-
jelly.
I mean, when you actually get down to it, it's super badly pixelated. Like, it takes up the whole screen, but it's so badly pixelated.
That's great.
That sounds charming in its own way.
It does.
But the ancient cave is very dear and near to my heart and a lot of fans out there. That's why if you ever really see Lufia in a stream, the ancient cave is probably the guilty pleasure of what you will see the people streaming it for.
How long
But-
does it actually take to do, would you
if
say?
If you speed run it, it can be done in an hour. Because, like I said, the floors are RNG, so you can actually go from one staircase to another, and it's only one floor. There's no doors, no nothing, and there's another staircase right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you also have to be prepared with the right items. Because the biggest item you want to make sure you can have is either the Gaze Blade, because with the high Akira points, you get the 8 hits at once. Because with the giant red jelly, you only have 3 turns to defeat it. If you don't, you lose.
Oh my god.
Oh.
So that's the challenge, but then also too a great thing you can find in in the red chest is the Dakar blade, because the Dakar blade gets, I believe, first strike and also attacks for, I think, 3 something, either 3 times or 3 something.
Oh my.
So I know it's very huge to have, but the ancient cave is a pivotal point in the game of why I keep coming back to it.
It's great. Do you get to keep the items from the ancient cave? Or do
Only
they-
Only blue chest.
Only blue chest. They're the only ones that you get to take with you. Got it.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, it's like a roguelike. Yeah, it's like it's very like if you've ever been addicted to a roguelike, like I've got to do one more run. You know what the Ancient Cave is.
Also too, the Ancient Cave, I have to give it props of its uniqueness because Final Fantasy XIV Online adapted a similar style to it because of the reference from Lufia II of the Ancient Cave. So when you're doing that whole gauntlet of going down those floors and the bosses and whatnot, it's mainly gave respect to what Lufia II had it to incorporate it. So that's another reason why I love the Ancient Cave.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's one of the first major post-game type challenges from an RPG too. I think it's one of the things that distinguishes it too. I mean, I've never done it because no thanks, but
but by mentioning
go ahead.
By mentioning post-game, if you defeat the game once and you play again, you get all your characters back. So from that, you can actually go into the Ancient Cave and have any one of your party you want. So you can actually have two and anyone else you would prefer to care for. Than going through it, so it's worth.
So you mean I can have Dakar? Yes, good.
Yes, 100% you can, or you can play him before he mysteriously vanishes.
You're killing me.
Play the game and you'll find out more.
I'm glad it was what we're going. That'll bring us to episode part 2 of Lufia 2. So I think that's it, guys. I think we've talked all we can talk about the first half of Lufia 2.
You didn't mention your favorite part.
Oh, well, I was going to mention the wedding, but I knew that would be a hotly contested favorite.
That's why I jumped in quickly.
Yeah.
I knew nobody was going near mine, so it's like, I'm good.
Yeah. So if I'm not going, I'll go for a very small part of the game that just made me laugh, and it's when we first meet Dekar and the red jelly survives. And then the prince of that castle rushes out and is like, show me the villain. I will take care of the villain. And this little red jelly comes up to the prince and he's like, I will kill you. And all his servants are like, oh, quite right, sir. You can take care of that jelly. And he's like, hang on. Kills the jelly and everyone applauds the prince.
And you could tell that it was a hard fight for him, too.
Yeah, totally. It took everything out of him. It's like, oh, that was a tough villain, but I have defeated him. It's just that prince makes me I love that prince.
I can defend this kingdom now. Go away.
Yes. Oh, quite right, sire. Quite right. So yeah, apart from the wedding, I'd say that little moment, that little character, just makes me smile.
Aw, that's sweet. Give some love to the prince.
Yeah, little prince. I can't remember the name of.
I also really love all the really doofy castle guards who are asleep and don't have any idea what's happening.
So bad. Everyone's so bad at their job. No wonder the Sinistrals are ready to destroy the world. No one's prepared.
I mean, I'll at least send off a nice little give Bertie and Bart some love. I know we didn't mention really much about them, but they're the Jesse and James of the game.
Pretty much Jesse and James. Stealing cards, very... They're inept, but they're not as inept as the guards, so it works out.
Lufia 2, a study in ineptitude.
Yes. That'll be our subline for the podcast. A study in ineptitude. Well, thanks so much, you two, for joining me in this podcast, and especially for doing 2 of them on the first part of Lufia 2. I've had great fun talking about this game, and especially
when you have a subject that you love and you're passionate about, of course you want to be here and talk about it.
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine a better couple to talk about this game with. So we'll move into housekeeping now. So coming up on Retro Encounter, we have a spoiler cast for the much anticipated game Kingdom Hearts 3.
And I'll be on that one too.
You'll be on that one? Awesome.
Yep. I reviewed it for the site, so yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I think that's a highly anticipated one. And also, after that, we'll have 2 episodes on Oath of Felghana in April. And please look forward to them as well. Please rate us on your podcast service of choice, and you can find us on social media and email us any feedback or... general love is accepted, whatever you want to say, nice things, I'll accept them. retro@rpgfan.com. What about personal social medias? Kat, what is your social medias? You can also plug the Twitch channel.
You can find me on twitch.tv/the Nerdy Cat, so you can see me streaming this game. I try to get more consistent schedules. I'm working on it, but Lufia 2 isn't automatic. You can find me playing it when I do.
I mean, even though by the time this podcast goes out mid-March, you will have finished it, but you can. I have a feeling you could always bet at some point you playing Lufia 2 on the stream. There's like a 50-50 chance.
Of course, I'm telling you, the Ancient Cave is a purpose for it. The Ancient Cave alone, I can stream it and fans will love it.
What other social medias can we find you on?
You can find me through Instagram as well. Instagram /the Nerdy Cat 2. It's about the most common ones. And Twitter / I think it's actually Cat Nerdy, KATT Nerdy, because I think someone already took the other one. I'm not sure. But Dan, just look for my face somewhere out there in Cyberland and you can find me too.
That's great. What about you, Zach? Where can we find you?
I'm Zach W on Discord, and you can also get me at ZachW@RPGFan.com.
I forgot about Discord. You know my Midnight Picture people. You just find me there.
And I'm Leona McCallum. You can find me at StarMongoose on Twitter, and I also run the Discord channel for the Discord server for RPG Fan, and I am StarMongoose on there. So that brings it to a close, guys. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you replay Lufia 2 soon because it's such a gem, and it'd be a shame that no one plays it because it is such a good game.
I mean, you gotta dish out some good money if you want the physical copy, at least a nice 80.
So ask your mom and dad very nicely, or your partner for Valentine's Day or something.
I'm excited for part 2, though. I can't wait.
Yes. So please join us for part 2. Goodbye.